Hello, and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey of the MHRT Network. Over to my left on today's show is Coach Defense of the Lockdown Defense podcast. You can catch Coach for his flagship podcast every Tuesday. Him and Coach Kurt, for the most part, every Tuesday. They discuss everything football, and they, depending on the season, Dustin NBA.
It all starts with an N.
The bouncing of the balls, if you will. And we'll go into there. And down directly below here is the real Alex Givens. You can catch his articles on Arrowhead Addict. And for all of you who are joining just recently here, Coach and Alex have a show directly after this one here on Coach's channel. And Alex, when he eventually figures out that you can create a YouTube channel with about 3 mouse clicks, will eventually have it on his channel as well, where that will go ahead and have the what is it called, Coach?
Lightning Fast Fantasy Football Podcast.
Fantastic. I'm going to let the man, the legend, speak it himself in terms of the podcast name. And that is everything you need to know about fantasy football, how these gentlemen have done in their leagues, what they've learned, what they know. It'll be super interesting to see how last week worked, because my gosh, there were some shockers in terms of the games that happened last week. Obviously we'll start talking about that later on in the show. But guys, overall, an interesting week in the AFC West.
To say the least.
Yeah.
So
certainly was a roller coaster ride.
Glass case of emotion.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm gonna have some more beer. Just give me a sec. So now that we got that out of the way, Coach, I want to throw over to you, and let's get a quick recap of the Chargers game this past week. Ups, downs, highs, lows, all those good things.
Yeah, well, we call that the game of who's going to try to lose it first. That's really what it boiled down to. Yeah. Who wants to lose it more so than anything? Welcome to Chiefs Kingdom, T Swift. All right, now
we got the Swifties in.
The Swifties are in the building.
Jennifer, I do have one comment / question. What is the over-under that Taylor Swift will be writing her breakup song for Travis Kelce coming next Chiefs game?
It's going to be a whole album.
Well, yes, I agree. I mean,
I'm predicting right now it's going to be called 87.
She literally chest bumped another dude in front of a national TV audience when her boyfriend scored a touchdown. That is both really cool and really questionable all at the same time. So, I mean, I'm predicting the downward spiral already. Jennifer, love to hear your comments on the over-under on that. And by the way, if you haven't seen the spectacular Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, kind of pre-guess of what her song or album is going to be, it's going to be called X's and O's. And that will be her breakup song with Kelce. Want to know your thoughts on that as well. I happen to love the title.
And even that storyline is infiltrating the Wild West podcast.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Well,
Coach, over to you, man.
Yeah. I don't know how I can follow that up. I don't know.
You can't.
Oh man, but I'm going to try to dissect this Chargers game, and it's one of those games that really just makes you want to question a lot of things. Overall, I mean, you can be happy about the win, but they literally took turns trying to give the game away. Like it's like Staley and O'Connell had a bet, like who can make the worst decisions down the stretch, you or me. Like we got a friendly bet of $1 to say that we're going to who's going to make the worst decisions down the line. Who's going to cost themselves the game, cost their team the game. But I digress. I mean, the overarching issue in this game is that we still got a lot of issues, a lot of things to address. I mean, injuries aside, there was no Eckler in this game. No Eric Kendricks. Bosa is still recovering from his hammy and things of that nature, although he played it for a fair amount of snaps. Khalil Mack is on a milk carton. When it comes to pass rush, I mean, he's still really good in the run game for some reason. And I'm noticing that the one thing the teams are doing, they're running away from him, and they have been doing so for quite some time. So that's a plus minus there. Overall, I mean, just looking at the possessions of the game, I literally documented the track of the game, and there were 10 possessions on each side of the ball. The Chargers got the ball first in the game because the Vikings want to toss. So they declined or deferred for the second half, and it was a back and forth of possessions when it comes down to what the Chargers did. It was a punt, it was a touchdown. It was a punt in the red zone, fumble, then another 2-minute drill touchdown. It was just weird. That was the first half breakdown. Second half, it was a missed field goal, although he got in the red zone. A double touchdown pass to Kenny Allen and Mike Williams. Then the next drive, Mike Williams gets hurt. Then we get the tip drill pass to Josh Palmer to go up. And then we botched the last drive inside our 25 and almost gave the game away. So that's pretty much how our offensive series went, top to bottom. What's more glaring, I mean, because if you look at Justin Herbert's stats, he was super elite in this game. Like, he literally only missed like 8 passes the whole entire game.
Yeah, he was great. He was spectacular. Yeah,
I mean, I did. Just again, he was surgical. I mean, it was literally surgical. I mean, his command of the line of scrimmage, just checking out in and out of plays and things of that nature. He didn't get enough credit for that. Because again, this particular outfit is overshadowed by the idea of what the defense isn't doing. They literally they had 10 drives. The Vikings had 10 drives. 7 of them got into our red zone. 7 of them ended up in the red zone.
Yeah.
Now, the only good fortune that we had is a tip interception in the game. We had a strip fumble in the first drive of the game, and then we also had a fumble that was a strip fumble they called back. But outside of that, outside of 3 punts and 10 drives, they literally got into the red zone on every occasion, and either end up in a touchdown or field goal. And like I said, 2 turnovers was the difference maker in the entirety of the game. But again, you're looking at it from a holistic and an overarching standpoint. You can't live like that. Good offense or not good offense. I mean, we give Justin Jefferson his respect and things of that nature, but you can't live your life like that defensively. The run defense is still porous. The pass defense is taking a step back. I mean, that was literally our calling card for the last 3 seasons, or last 2.5 seasons, and that's taking a step back. J.C. Jackson being a healthy scratch for the game, which was weird because this whole court case thing they must have known about, so they just sat him out. It's a lot going on, a lot of mess. Again, you want to be happy because it is a victory, but again, you can't. This isn't a sustainable model. We have to figure out a way to strategically, because I don't think schematically we can get stops on our own. We have to strategically get stops on defense and somehow or another shore up the front. Now, will that get better with Eric Kendricks coming back in the lineup? I hope so. I will say this. A lot of people that have been hating on and been naysayers of Kenneth Murray, right? But the moment he started calling the defense, he's been playing lights out. Like he's been playing like a number 1 linebacker, and I have to give him credit. He's been forcing tackles for losses. He's got an interception in the game. He got a sack in the previous game. So he's been playing lights out. Like he's been playing downhill. He's been playing fast. He's been playing like the number 1 draft pick that they drafted him to be. Now, whether or not it's sustainable is a whole nother question. But it's the thing, he didn't when he was a side next to Eric Kendricks, he didn't play that well. But the moment he was by himself and it was fight or flight, he was flying. So I got to give him his kudos. So with Justin Herbert being surgical, Keenan Allen practically leading the league in receiving yards in the past 2 weeks, and Kenneth Murray's play. I think those are in our pass rush, ironically. Tuliopou and Joey Bosa have been taking turns getting after the quarterback. And they've been doing a pretty good job of scheming them up on the same side of the ball and doing stunts and twists with them and trying to get them free. And it's been working to a large degree. So I definitely give them kudos for that. So, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a balance when it comes down to the idea that they're doing things right. But there are some good and there's definitely some bad that needs to be cleaned up. And I'm just curious how they're going to get there. I mean, because again, these issues are long-standing issues that haven't been corrected, and they're not getting better; they're getting worse.
So I guess that's the question is this a scheme thing, or is this a player thing, or is this a combination of both? And
I think it's all of it.
Yeah, that's always a combination of both.
Yes.
Right?
I think it's all of it. Yeah. Yes, they're right. Yes.
Yeah. And so I just real quick, Coach, I don't want to interrupt kind of the Chargers piece here. I do want to just quickly give a quick shout out to a couple people here in the chat joining us live. Always love having an active chat here, laughing at some of the comments, especially the one there from Spence GC.
Yeah, I feel that.
Good job. I agree. The whiskey is still wearing off. I'm almost back to normal. The Irish in me required several bottles, and I'll let you know when I'm back to being okay. But I do want to just give a big shout out to Brendan West, new member, new entry here to both the show and the channel here at the MHRT Network. Love having new guys joining the show.
Welcome.
In. That's fantastic. Ask any questions you want. We will answer them throughout the podcast here as best we can. And Spence, your comment here is worthy of a banner across the bottom here.
It really is.
It really is.
Boy, you picked the wrong game to do that.
Yeah, it was. That was. We'll just say that was something. And I'm hoping to spend as little time on that nonsense as possible. But with regards to that, that's a hilarious comment. I do hope that your hangover will finally subside, perhaps by week 6. And
it might just be a prolonged thing.
Exactly.
Really feel for the whole season here.
Yeah, and we'll go from there.
That's a good one too. Rocker's Will comment was funny too.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we got to give Ed a shout out.
Well, Riker.
Get some respect.
Right. Yeah, show me some respect.
No respect.
Right in Dangerfield.
Well, Ed, you deserve a special mention at the end of everybody. I mean, you've been with us since the get-go, but if you're going to try to jump the gun, then thanks, Ed, for joining the show. We'll get to you later. But I joke, obviously. But Riker, I mean, that's true. And realistically speaking, this upcoming game may well turn out to be based on how the Broncos and Bears are both playing this year in terms of who wins that sweepstakes. What will be really
there are actually 2 games that are winless teams this week. The Vikings and who the Vikings play?
Panthers.
Yeah, the Vikings and the Panthers. That's a winless.
All of the winless teams are playing each other this week.
Yeah.
Exactly. Who scheduled that?
Well, that's just a fluke. Really. I mean, you can't predict who's going to be winless by week 3, right?
The scripted conspiracy theorists would say that was planned.
Right. Well, I still thought that McDaniel should have gone for that field goal kick at the end of the Broncos game. There is certainly an overwhelming number of folks that are saying that the league called it in for him not to do it. At some point, you have to, balance that out. But it sure was suspect. Let's just be honest. As a Broncos fan, I would have done it.
He already scored 70 at that point.
In fact, my hand was up saying, "Please kick the field goal. I want you to do it." Because at that point, the damage is done. Just do your thing.
Yeah.
Right. It just is what it is. But Coach, you made some interesting points there about your Chargers. It sounds like you're actually far more concerned now than you were at the beginning of the season. Mike Williams getting hurt is probably not helping.
No.
At all. Because Herbert seems to have his guys, and he's very tunnel vision when it comes to his dudes that he's kind of used to. Do you think that will be a good or a bad thing for Herbert and Quinton? Was it Quinton?
Quinton Johnston. Johnston.
Yeah.
Quinton Johnston.
Yeah. So is that going to be a catalyst or a hindrance in your opinion?
Well, I wouldn't say, Herbert is necessarily tunnel vision. I think it's a trust thing. When you have, chemistry and trust with your receivers and you know what they're going to do and they're not going to do, that gives you a level of comfort. So when you haven't had that built up chemistry with a Quentin Johnson, with a Josh Palmer, and guys like Darius Davis who are new, for that matter, you have to, can we get this done in the same level, kind of thing. Because Keenan is still there. He still has this chemistry with Donald Parham and Gerald Everett. But Palmer. At some point in time, he's going to have to lend and trust Palmer and Johnson in certain spots. Because if your defensive coach get paid too, and if you know what I know, that at some point they're going to do their best to try to take away his primary weapons. Yeah. So what's going to happen when you have to lean on these younger guys to make plays? Because again, what gives me pause is that Quentin Johnson hasn't been on the field much as a first round pick just yet. You look at everybody in his draft class outside of him, he's the only one that's not playing in the large capacity. Now, you can argue that, the talent ahead of him might be, kind of superseding that. But again, if you're that guy and they draft you to be that guy, you should be on the field in certain spots. And he hasn't been targeted. He hasn't been on the field much. So that makes me wonder. And on top of that, Josh Palmer's production, it's fleeting because again, when he's not the focal point, he has these, breakout games here and there, but he also disappears in certain spots. When he's the clear-cut number one, i.e. last year in several spots when Keenan and Mike were both hurt, he was disappearing by him. You didn't see him. So that part, makes me wonder about what role that Kellen Moore's going to utilize Palmer and Johnson in, and can Justin count on him? If I throw you the ball, will you catch it and will you make plays? Again, because we all know this, it's not a super top secret that Quentin Johnson has had drop issues in the past. And that kind of issues, those kind of things, if you have those type of confidence issues in your ability to catch the football, that's not make a quarterback feel good. So, because it's one of those key spots on the third down where you need somebody to catch the football and get a first down. If that one split second hesitation because you're not sure if you're gonna catch the ball or not, it can end up in a sack, it can end up in an off-timing pass, it can end up in an interception. Who knows? But if I can trust and ultimately know that Keenan and Mike are gonna come down with the ball every time I throw it to him, that's a comfort level that I like to live with. So it's just a matter of what type of chemistry and confidence they can build within each other going forward is going to be the key to our passing game.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Alex, any thoughts on the Chargers?
It's certainly going to be interesting. It was a very Chargers way to win, right? Like go for it on fourth down and not get it, and then just still pull it out. But hey, as a Fast and Furious approach, right? A win is a win. Doesn't matter if it's by an inch or a mile.
Inch or a mile. Winning is winning.
But, I think it is going to be interesting to see. Because that's why you went to go get Kellen Moore, right? So you can have the offensive prowess and creativity for when these injuries happen to still be productive. I know I've said on this show that I felt a big part of the reason they got someone like Quentin Johnson in the first was to sort of stopgap, when something came up with Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, so that they weren't stuck with Josh Palmer having to be the guy.
Right.
So, I certainly understand where coach's hesitancy is from, but I think that this was somewhat part of the offseason plan, or at least their plan in the draft, or definitely a consideration they had in going receiver. So, and, me as the Quentin Johnston dynasty owner, I'm all for it. So
I have him too. I drafted him in my Yahoo league, so I understand. But it's a wait and see. Can he will he and can he be on the field a lot going forward? Based upon in Mike's injury. And again, I agree with you. That was the long-term plan because we've had, the smart thing to do was to address the problems you had in the past. You had a lot of injuries in wide receiver last year, so you drafted one. But again, we can argue back and forth about who we should have taken, but again, we're here now. So he's got to step up and reduce and earn that first round grade. Because I promise you, if it was Zay Flowers or Jackson Smith and Jigba, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So you got to prove that you're in that caliber of those guys. Jordan Addison either. So I think that you have to prove that you're worthy of that tag and step up and and be the guy, because you're going to be not only be the guy now, but you're going to be the guy going forward, because Kenny and Michael are not going to be here forever.
No. No. And that's how he's going to earn his second contract too in the league.
Absolutely.
You know, this is really the time, right? Like all of those wide receivers that truly like make that step, right? Is they seem to make it in those key moments. So can he do the things to do the things to kind of get that accolade, right? And that's a big deal, because this is where he's going to make his bread and butter. Is now's your chance, own it, earn it, and don't give it up.
Exactly. And I promise you, he's going to get a lot of opportunities, because I don't know what the hell happened between week 1 and now, but our run game has disappeared. Like we had an enormous amount of success in week 1 and complete and total flops in week 2 and week 3. Now I get the Titans game, because they held the Cleveland Browns to under 100 yards rushing, and that's the best rushing team in the league. So I get that. But the Vikings literally gave up almost 200 yards to the Eagles the week before. So it wasn't the personnel and who you were facing this week. They just couldn't run the ball.
Right.
Well, but Eckler hadn't been there, since week 1. So
that's the thing. I think Josh Palmer had more yards than Eckler week 1. So, again, he just haven't been able to get any push up front.
The question ultimately becomes is that a response to results, or is that a response to personnel that were on the field or not on the field?
Yeah. In
terms of having the rotation in of Eckler versus not, that's kind of a big question there.
You could argue that whether or not it was a complimentary role that was more comfortable for Kelly versus you having to be the lead dog. I don't know. I don't know. But Eckler's practiced today, so hopefully we can check that box this week. If he plays this week, that'll lend to the idea whether or not that was the case.
Right. And or the question is that whether or not the opponents you're going against are a better run defense team versus a pass defense team. And so, as you have weeks string together without a run game, then you're like, okay, no, this is a trend versus that was an intentional, maybe even issue, but nonetheless an intentional game plan problem, or just game plan in general.
I sure hope week 1 wasn't an outlier. Hoping it was just an anomaly. It wasn't, it wasn't an outlier or an anomaly. That we're not going back to where we were a year ago.
Right, I agree. So just to move on and continue on our roundtable of what happened this past week, I'm going to throw over to Alex and Captain. Thanks for joining us. I hope everything's okay. And
weather.
We will move on to the Raiders shortly after Alex covers the Chiefs.
The beatdown.
The beatdown that was almost the worst of the week.
Almost
of the
Dolphins
Chiefs.
Hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly. So go ahead, Alex. Go ahead and let's break down your slaughtering of the Bears.
Yeah, as you said, it was an absolute slaughtering, 41-10. Honestly, should have been probably 41-0, but Blaine Gabbert had to go in and just throw 2 interceptions out of his 5 passing attempts. So, I guess one negative of it, backup QB situation, little shaky, but that's for another day.
It's not really a beatdown when you only win by 31, though, right?
I suppose that's your subjective measure of what a beatdown is. Maybe a Raiders beatdown is a 2-point.
Well, I was just saying 31 points was not the largest margin on this panel, though.
No,
it wasn't. But it was the largest margin for a win. So
yes, that's true. Yes,
Either way,
but not by a loss.
You are correct. You can't help but feel bad kind of for Justin Fields and the Bears. It just kind of seemed like they weren't even in it when it started. Like they were checked out before the kickoff even happened, and it was just like they weren't really doing much to help him out on that side of the ball. And Chiefs defense has been playing pretty stellar up to this point and only looked even better. Drew Tranquil looking like the signing of the offseason. I mean, going out, replacing an injured Nick Bolton and, has 9 tackles, I think half a sack, but he filled in quite nicely. So, I'm not going to act like they had to go against a really tough offensive unit. Just wanted to point out, I didn't think that the coaches did much to help Fields or the offense work at all. But and then, in terms of Chiefs offensive play, I thought this was kind of a good. They certainly everything seemed to click in terms of kind of how the first 2 games went. I thought Kelsey was more involved. Obviously, seemed to be a little more hyped with his new flame in attendance, which seemed to take a lot of the camera's attention. And the announcers for that fact, but
chest bump.
Yeah, I told a couple of my buddies that are Bears fans, I'm like, man, that just had to be the cherry on top of this whole week for you. Like, first you had the potential FBI raid, like Justin Fields calling out the coaches, and then just the 31-point just thromping with T Swift in the house. Just had to really just bring it home for him. But offense looked good, both passing and running the ball. Pacheco and surprisingly Clyde Edwards-Helaire both had 15 touches, but I think that's a little skewed because they kind of went into backups, part of the fourth quarter. Rashid Rice continues to look like he's going to be a pretty strong asset, and especially for being a rookie receiver. If he would have just had a little more strength, he'd have at least 1 touchdown because he got stopped at the 1-yard line twice. So, but I thought good to see rookie, especially kind of how the past rookies have been like Sky Moore and some of these other guys that have been non-existent for the whole season. I think it's nice to see Rice, second-round pick, continue to progress every week in terms of building trust with Mahomes and getting targets and producing. So,
Alex, on that note, I think that's an interesting comment, though. Going back, is that not a great lesson for wide receivers at the NFL level? Just learning that they're going against just a truly different level of competition at the NFL level. Like if you get stopped twice at the 1-yard line at the college level, that dude was in the end zone every time, right?
Yeah.
Like just call a duck a duck. That was a touchdown every time, right? Like he's just used to, come on, that's like I'm good, right? And even when a guy misses at the NFL level, they can catch up, make up, and stop. Like it's a completely different mental mindset. So I think that's despite having an elite quarterback, which Mahomes is, throwing you the ball, you still, as a wide receiver at the NFL level, need to elevate yourself to be successful when you move to the NFL.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you bring that up because, like this morning, I thought it was interesting on Get Up. I usually listen to that as I'm getting ready for my day, but they were talking actually about how the league is, everyone thinks the league's so uncompetitive, there's, your 5 to 6 favorites and everyone else isn't close. But in all reality, every game is decided by 1 or 2 plays that, they're right there. Because they're talking about the Cardinals beating the Cowboys. And it's in all reality, even the bad teams are right there from being good. It's just this small margin of error. But, because everyone's they're making millions of dollars to know their assignment and know where to be and have perfect techniques. So
that's all they do every day, all day.
Yeah, I would gladly do that I could, but I wasn't blessed enough with those traits. But I think that it was a good lesson, or maybe part of his welcome to the NFL moment. Outside of probably the 1 drop he averages a game, but to get stopped twice at the 1-yard line, it's probably a good awakening that it's a little bit different comp than I don't even know what SMU. What conference are they in? The American or ACC or something like that. So either way, different breed.
Exactly. And I think Quentin Johnson's probably also going through that thing as well, where he was used to leveraging probably physical traits to succeed in college, and he's gonna, have to adjust accordingly. And actually, to be quite honest, I think Keenan Allen's probably a great guy, or even Williams or both are great teachers for someone like him, because they are similarly skilled in terms of physical attributes. But I mean, both would have had to have learned rather quickly to adjust to the, welcome to the league, Rook, in terms of, what to expect and what they're going to go against. And, basically the best dude that they went against in college is the average guy in the NFL.
Yeah. So
right?
to a certain degree, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's just the way of the world now, and they're going to have to adjust accordingly.
Yeah, but it's one thing that no matter what you do and who you get taught by, you can't teach confidence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. I mean, Deion Sanders is basically, oozing confidence, and there's a reason why
he's walking confidence, man.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, but there's a reason why when you saw him on the field, it was silly.
Well, I mean, that's a whole different level of talent, though.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean is that he had the rare combination of both skill and confidence within one player.
Mm-hmm.
And
he lets you know it.
He does.
Not shy about it.
He is the definition of fig jam, which is a 4-letter F word followed by "I'm good, just ask me." But the difference between Deion and everyone else who has the same mental mindset is Deion can back it up. Like legit back it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care who you are.
Whatever I say, I do.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's that good. He was that good.
Except beat Oregon.
And so anyways.
Well, we're talking about player versus coach. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're talking about practice.
But anyways, Alex, to your point, I actually think that this is going to be an interesting growth curve for Rice on your team, which is, will he rise to the occasion and push through and get better, or will he kind of be above average and not quite ever make that next step?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's really the big question, right? And the best of the best at the NFL force themselves to level up, and the other guys just kind of are always way better than everyone else they've ever played against, but never quite get there.
Yeah, and he's certainly getting the opportunity. He had 7 targets last game, and I think at least getting over 5 the first 3 games here. So, like I said, it'll be interesting as they kind of go into this stretch of teams that are all 1-3 or losing records. See if they can, if they can build on that. But yeah, overall, I mean, it is an overall great team win. I'm not going to act like the Bears were a tough opponent. Even the Windy City guy we had on last week was pretty realistic about how this game would go, and I'd say it went pretty as expected. Couple milestones, I guess, to take from it. Reed got I wrote it down, 271st win, so he passed Tom Landry, so he's 4th all time now on the list. And then Mahomes was the fastest ever to throw for 25,000 yards in his career, so that's kind of a cool little tidbit from this game. But yeah, overall, I mean, great win, and then certainly got some added hype with certain pop star being in attendance. So. We're welcoming the Swifties to the kingdom.
Yeah.
I wanted to say nation so bad. I was about to. I was looking at him. I was gonna do it.
Speaking of that, is it safe to say that the Steelers are the nation now since they won?
And you know what, Coach? Because I'm trying to keep my F words inside me. Okay?
It was just a question. I
answered it for you.
no need for violence. violence. No need for violence. I just asked.
This close, Coach. This close. You don't want to get a pissed off veteran on camera.
No need
On
for violence.
camera, because that's all I need right now to show how depressed and anxiety and, go grab a gun and go blow something up. I need is for you.
No
to
PTSD.
talk
Listen.
I don't think you want to put that on the airwaves.
about
Right,
the
right.
nation.
No,
This ain't
no
a conspiracy
PTSD.
pod.
No PTSD over here. No, we are no.
Coach, I love you. That's why I went on your show last night to show some of that love. And I was
I
there.
appreciate that. I
I was
appreciate
there.
that.
It
You
was
were.
late because I had a show where I dropped so many F-bombs that there is no more F's in the world. Okay, because I used them all.
They're
I
all gone.
used them all. Okay, but I had to. But I'm sorry. The answer to your question, Coach, is F no.
Okay.
There's only one nation,
enough.
Coach.
There's
Fair-
only-
fair- fair
and you
enough.
know
Only
what?
one.
This guy knows. He knows. And I love the fact that the smugs know this. Thank you there, Shipman. I appreciate it. You make me
Smug
feel all
slash
good
Swifties
inside, man. You make me feel all
I have
good
some Steelers
inside.
fans in the family, so I just thought I'd ask. 'Cause
Yeah.
they were clamoring about that after the
Well,
win, so I just thought I'd ask.
Real quick, Alex, before we take that segue and run with it, which is really a gift. I do have one question that I think everyone is wanting to know, which we're looking to you for an answer. Is
Absolutely.
Was that a popcorn cart or was that Taylor Swift in the middle box?
In what metal box? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, the thing is that a lot of the celebrities will find creative ways to travel between point A and point B without being noticed. And your newest addition to Chiefs Kingdom, Miss T Swift, has a reputation of being transported in wheeled carts.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
And
You know what? If she has a reputation for it, I'd say it's more likely true than not that it happened at that. But
Yeah, so basically there was a gap. Apparently, it was all over NFL's Twitter, which was she was up in the box upstairs and then was down on
What's
Travis
in the
Kelce's
box?
arm.
Yeah,
Down on
immediately
top.
after.
What's in the box?
She's also the biggest pop star in the world, so I think she can probably get wherever she wants, pretty quick.
Yeah,
But,
I agree. I agree.
On that, I did want to throw a shout out to my boy Jacob in here. I don't think we formally shouted him out, although he is trying to talk about college football because he is a Nebraska fan. So let's just move on from that. 'Cause no one cares about that.
Do they still have a team in Nebraska?
Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
So
No, they don't. It's a club now.
Cameron
You gotta
Parker of the MHRT Network of the Mainly Broncos podcast. I do hope you saw that because I am not a Cornhuskers apologist for you. I will let you attempt to defend your team. I will not do so on your behalf, though. Captain, thank you for highlighting that. And Jacob, I'm sorry. But with regards to Captain, segueing in right off of that T Swift comment there, let's talk about the Steelers Raiders game, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Well, first off, I'd like to say apologies for being late, but I can't account for the weather here. So when the house is out and the things are on and it takes a while to get plugged in, I come in as I can. Okay, and that's what she said as well. I figured I'd start out. Anyway, Husker defamation. Well, again, that's just so easy. I'm just Jacob. Welcome to the show, by the way. I also want to say that this week I am not as hurting as bad with my neuropathy. I still have that pain. But a lot of it was with the mental anguish of, and Coach alluded to it. And I said this to everybody that was within earshot that was talking to me. about the game. I said there will be a shite ton of Stiller fans, said correctly, by the way, Stiller fans in our stadium. I saw it walking around on Friday and to the events on Saturday, and I was right. There was a boatload, actually probably 3 boatloads, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, and they all came in. They all came in to the stadium that day. It was not unexpected because Steeler country, Steeler country, and I made sure. I told those effers that it's not a nation. I said, go back to the 70s.
Hey, listen here.
I was going to say. Now we got another controversy.
Listen here, you.
Well, okay, no, and wait, whoa. We're gonna go here. Go back to the 70s, and you see. And I told every Steeler fan this. I said, you saw a picture of the front 4 of the Steelers steel curtain. It was Furness, and it was White, and L.C. Greenwood, and Joe Green. It said, "You're in Steelers country." And go back and look it up there, Richie, if you have any problem with it, because it goes back to the 70s. If you want to harp on them about taking your moniker, go right ahead. But it goes back to the 70s, okay?
No, you're missing the point. They knew better than to try to steal mine, and they changed it.
Steal your wine.
Well, Broncos country has been the thing, and they knew better than to try to steal Broncos country, and they moved on. I mean, Tim Tebow made sure to seal that deal right there.
One. What is it? Grenade pass.
Yeah.
To who the hell was that?
Pass.
Demarius Thomas,
R.I.P.
Yeah, what Demarius Thomas? Okay, I remember that. That said one thing that he had over. I don't think that even the bald-headed Manning has ever had a victory in a Bronco uniform over the Steelers. I think that's one thing that Tebow has over him. I don't know. I might be wrong, but anyway, and I will say this, and I have no problem saying it because it's the truth. The Steelers clan, or we'll call it a clan, will be nice. Took over.
You give them like 5 different nicknames.
I know,
Well,
right?
I'm just saying. I so as not to offend any of you PCAs, whatever. I'm trying. God, I'm in a mood today. I'm trying not to. So as not to offend any PC people out there. Okay. They came in. They saw, and for about 3.5 quarters, they kicked our ass. Okay. Just like last week, the Raiders, after a skirmish of 3 and outs, the Raiders go down the field and score a great touchdown on a great play, a gadget play on a 4th and 1, about 40 yards away. We'll go for it on 4th down. A fake dive, throws it to Adams in double coverage, touchdown. Raiders were up by 7, and then the whole world went to hell. Okay. The Steelers go down the field and they tie it up because Pickens blew away. I can't remember which defensive back it was, but he was like running right into my lap. He looked like he was running into the tunnel. Great play by Pickens. And then this Raiders defense, which is really something you haven't seen in a while, stiffens 3 times and forces 3 field goals. 3. Instead of touchdowns, the Raiders defense actually came to life. And then nobody covers Freiermuth when they needed that extra touchdown. They're up by 16. Set the stage. The Steelers are up by 16, which is only 2 touchdowns and 2 double points away. So the Raiders go, and they get that extra touchdown after they wake up in the 4th quarter like they haven't had anything going on, and they get the touchdown. And then they wake up again, and they're driving, and, we can't get it, so we're going to go for a field goal. But no, the Steelers give them another set of downs. So Schmuckatelli, otherwise known as Jay McDaniel, says, okay, we'll take the 3 off the board. We're going to go for it. We take another minute off the clock. We get to about the 4-yard line. And I've been very nice in making sure that I never call Coach McDaniel some awful words that other people have said on my show. I said, can't call him that. I said, it's Coach McDaniel. Well, for this day and for the other shows, Coach Schmuck decides to go for a field goal after taking the 3 off the board and wasting a minute of time and gets 3. I understand it. And I said this in my post. I understand it. You're over on the upside of 2-minute warning. You got 3 timeouts in the 2-minute warning, and you're leaving it to your defense, which has come to life. But, and a rather big but it is, like I saw out there in Vegas with a few of the babes that were out there. If you're going to take the 3 off the board and you're on the 4 freaking yard line and it's 4th down, you go for the first down, you go for the touchdown. What's the worst that can happen? You turn the ball over on downs deep in the end zone where you give it to them. You're still down by 8. No, you kick a field goal to make it interesting. What the hell kind of call is that? And I've been pissed off about it so bad that it made me forget my neuropathy for most of the time on Sunday night. I didn't have to do a show because the show was on when the game was on. And I stewed on the plane all day on Monday. And I said, oh no, I got to have a show. I got to have an uncensored show to blow my stack about what was going on. And I did that last night. Then I saw Coach was on and I said, hello, Coach. I wanted to make sure I spread some of the love. But yeah, uncensored. I get a chance to do that. What in the hell are you doing? Raiders lose by 5. And Coach McDaniels, I've seen he has the clown hair on, and then he has the offense, or was it high school offensive coordinator at Spirit. It shows a picture of McDaniel, with the Halloween costume, all that other stuff. Dude, you screwed up. Broncos with Peyton beat the Steelers to play the Patriots. Okay, Avatar again. I was making light of something that Tim Tebow might have done that he hadn't done, but thank you for bringing that to my attention. As stated, I just said it just to be fun, but hey, let's get it.
Captain, at the end of the day, what that ultimately means is that you were effectively a combination of a score with a 2-point conversion and a field goal away, so like 10 points, for all intents and purposes, away from winning that game. And so the question is, does it matter what comes first, the cart or the horse? So what I mean by that is, if your offense wasn't getting it done, and you weren't because you got it to 4th down.
But did you see the plays in front of the Jacob
Jurassic Park.
Jacob ripped off 2 10-yard runs in a row in that last drive. 2 10-yard runs in a row. They're on the 4-yard line. It's 4th and 3. Go for it.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh.
So here's the deal.
With that Kevin Hart.
So here's the deal. A 4th and 3 is much different than having having basically 13 yards to the end zone or even 20 yards to the end zone. The point being is that you end up having a much different defense, and frankly, Coach will agree with me on this. As a defensive coordinator, you can for example, as you get the offense closer to the end zone, you can play certain plays differently because you no longer have the concept of a deep pass. So everything becomes more condensed in terms of how you play. And so what that does is it actually makes it much more difficult for your running backs to get those extra gaps and those extra holes to run those types of plays that you had success with, and frankly, from Josh Jacobs before. It's just a fact. I'm sorry. It is, because the distance between your linebacker and your defensive line is much shorter and much condensed. So therefore, you're able to actually pressure and prevent the running back from getting a full head of steam in order to make it all the way through, which is why run plays are much more difficult that close to the end zone. They just are. And they're actually more difficult for the offensive line to punch through holes, which is why you often see teams like the Raiders, like the Broncos, and like some of the other teams with fullbacks, because it helps with that extra blocker in there to actually punch a guy into the end zone. So
not to get too detailed on it, it actually is much more difficult inside the red zone to pass, because that window is condensed, and the passing windows are now from the 20 to the probably about the 5 is really easy to run the ball. Now, when you get from 5 yards to the goal line, then it's getting difficult to run the ball. Just to be clear on the numbers when it comes down to that idea.
They were 4 yards out.
Yeah.
That's my point. They were 4 yards out. 4.
I firmly believe this, but I didn't say anything about running it. I actually, just like you had that little fake that got the first touchdown, everybody in the house was expecting a run. That's why you run that play action, or you run Jimmy Garbage Buffalo out on a boot. Okay. Okay. You run him out on a boot, or you do a fake, or you do something like, because when the Steelers got that second touchdown, it was a fake to Freiermuth. Why not give them a dose of their own medicine? Because they were down about the same place where the Raiders were when they got that touchdown. Give them a dose back. I still say run the play, have a fake and a quick pass, because they've been on it before. They could have been on it again. That's
true. That's a play calling component, though. But my point is that your best player on offense is Josh Jacobs.
Not the last several weeks, mate.
Well, generally speaking, overall, no. I maybe not this season per se, but generally speaking, Josh Jacobs is your best offensive player.
Have you forgot about number 17? Have you forgot about number 16?
At this moment, it might be Devontae Adams.
No,
you forgot.
Devontae Adams may well be. He may well be one of the most talented wide receivers in the game. But the point being is that the guy that ran the league, and I mean that in a literal sense as well, last season was Josh Jacobs. And it wasn't particularly close. He was kind of across the board the best running back in the league in almost all major statistical categories. And so you have to kind of give, dare I say, the devil his due as it pertains to the fact that, for the rest of us, he's a divisional opponent. So, you have to kind of give him credit where credit is due on that front. And so my whole point is that from an opponent's team perspective, who are you going to pay attention to in the red zone when you're 4 yards out? Only 4. You're going to be trying to focus on Jacobs, and then it's up to your offensive coordinator to scheme something that makes Jacobs look like the guy, but then go elsewhere.
Thank you. If you're scheming on Jacobs and people are thinking it's going to be on Jacobs, that's when you pull out the fake. That's when you throw it to Mayer, the tight end. That's when you run like dare say use Hunter Renfrow, who's on an effing milk carton as of late. He has 3 catches the entire year. Okay? 3. I'm just saying, if Coach Captain is coaching, and again, I've never professed to be a great play caller. I'm an offensive line guy. I'm a line guy. I'm not as big as Alex. I'm not as big as Coach. I'm not as big as you. I'm the shrimp on the panel, okay? Comparatively, okay? Seriously, I have no problem with that. But I did play offensive line because I'm the smartest. I almost said it. For those people, because you got to be smart to play offensive line, right? You run the play, you run the fake, you get the effing touchdown. And then you go for 2. If you don't make it, then you know what you got. But I'm just saying, the worst thing that could have happened, okay, you turn it over on downs, but you leave your defense, because you need a stop anyway, but you leave them with about 96 yards to go to run out the clock, okay? Deep in their territory with a quarterback that's only in his second year, stuff can happen. I'm just saying I would have taken the extra play.
Yes, you had at that point there, you would have had a total of 8 points, right?
We would have had a total of what?
You got 3 points on the touchdown, and you needed 5 to win at the end of that, right? Because you lost by 5.
Well, we got 3 on the field goal. I know what you meant. Yeah, and we needed 5.
So you basically needed another touchdown with a 2-point conversion in order to win that game.
No,
tie that game.
No, if we would have gotten the touchdown, right, we would have needed 2 to tie. Okay, if they don't get it, then you still need a field goal. And with Carlson is the best. Although Boswell was wonderful, Carlson could knock a field goal from pretty much anywhere on the field. I still say they really missed out.
Yeah. So I actually think that. I mean, I understand what your thing is in terms of that. I do think that at some point, though, you have to credit if your defense has been kind of on point, if you will. You have to show confidence as a head coach and as a play caller in how your team is doing. So, as an example, if I'm Sean Payton against the Dolphins, I show no confidence in my defense because, well, they were being run through and scored on like a wet paper bag, right, in the Dolphins game. And so you don't show them the confidence because they don't deserve it, right? You know, once you're down 35 to almost nothing basically at halftime, your defense doesn't deserve confidence. They've lost that confidence, rightfully so. However, in the Raiders game, I have to, you have to kind of look at it from the flip side perspective there, Captain. The last 2 drives, your defense really showed out.
And that's why I said I appreciate the fact that he had confidence in the defense. That showed he had confidence in his defense. I'll give him that. But I just said it kind of petered out on going. I'm sick and effing tired of Raider coaches going back to Gruden. You take the foot off the gas. You take the hand off of the throat. Go for it. Show the mentality that you want to have. You have confidence in your defense. Show your offensive mentality of confidence as well.
Basically, you want to show confidence in your offense as well as your defense, and
yes,
I understand that. Yeah, that's fair. Now, if you don't get it, then I guess you don't get it, and you just kind of own the fact you lost by 7 or 8, right? Like so be it, right? Yeah. And I think that's a fair approach to things, and frankly, I'm sure as a fan, you would have been just fine with that.
I would have rather have lost by 8. Than lost by 5 in that circumstance.
Exactly. That's my point, right? Which is you would have rather have gone for the thing knowing you were that close to the end zone than just kind of said, I hope we stop them.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate that for sure. I can. And so the Broncos lost by a lot. So on to week 4. So just kidding. It's basically, as far as I'm concerned, the Broncos gave up the most points in NFL history because it is of my opinion that McDaniels was told not to go for it, which I disagree with. If I was McDaniels, I would have kicked the field goal for sure. Because at that point there, even as a Broncos fan, I was like, dude, if you're going to do it, just do it. I mean, just rip it. Just rip the damn thing, right? Do the damage. The damage is already done at this point. We've lost by 50. Okay? Like, that's 5-0. Like, as in, most games are not scoring 50 points, but we lost by 50 points. So just own it and just do your thing. Like, you've already done the thing, just do the thing. And to put in perspective for those folks that didn't see the game, but may have wanted to just because they wanted to see the Broncos lose by that much, is the Dolphins had their third string players in by the end of the game, and the Broncos defense still could not stop them. I really do want that point driven home. And Brandon, that's exactly my point. That's exactly my point, which is that is such rare air to put yourself in.
Just do it.
You just do that.
Just do it.
Yeah, again, even as a Broncos fan, you're just like, dude, please own it because you deserve it at that point. You know what I mean? Like you've done the thing, you've earned it. And my big piece here that I've come back on, all three of you guys know that I've been pounding the table for this for as long as we have known each other, is what are my big things on any football team? It is interior defensive line, offensive line, and middle linebacker play. Like literally, those are my big three.
1, 2, and 3.
Those are my big three. And a lot of the other things are kind of a distant fourth, fifth, and sixth.
Is there honorable mention for blocking tight ends?
Pardon me?
There honorable mention for blocking tight ends?
There is, yes.
Okay.
There is.
That's 3A.
And that's Sauber, by the way. That's Sauber.
I like what you did there.
Yeah. I see what you did there. So, and yeah, that's exactly it. Which is, there's a reason why football is football, and a lot of the games and the unsung heroes on most teams that we take for granted are the trenches. And often those are the interior defensive linemen that get pressure right up the middle towards the quarterback to put them off their spot. They're the offensive linemen that are able to hold other teams' interior D linemen at bay and edge rushers at bay. And then middle linebacker play, because they're the ones that supplement and stop the run when the interior defensive line are not able to cover and stop all gaps. But those linebackers stop those gaps from getting filled with the opposing team's running backs to gash them for 10+ yards, like Captain saw with Josh Jacobs last game against the Steelers there. So what we saw from the Denver Broncos was basically complete and total defensive failure. We saw gaps get opened, running backs just gash us for yards. We saw just undisciplined gap discipline just not be there. We saw interior defensive linemen not get pressure, and we saw the one guy from our team that can absolutely get interior D-line pressure in DJ Jones be the only guy that can do it, but then get negated because that's the only guy they focused on. No one else could do anything. And it was pretty sad. Like, it was actually it basically has highlighted my comment here all along, which is like, we need to go. Like we need to fire sale.
The Dolphins had 350 rushing yards.
Yes.
Oh, it was bad.
Oh, yeah.
It was bad.
That's tough.
It was bad.
But at least they were balanced. They gave up 5 rushing touchdowns and 5 passing touchdowns. You can't get any more balanced than that.
We nailed it. We really nailed it. Like way
to stick the landing.
We had an equal. We had equal parts suck on both rushing and passing on the defensive
there
side
you
of the
go.
ball. It really was important. Super, super important. And on top of that, the other thing that we saw with the Broncos was I saw guys just not do it. And what I mean by that is, you saw the Dolphins running back just run in to the end zone, and you saw cornerbacks and safeties watch them run in. Like, as in, they didn't move to try to stop them. And that in and of itself was just unacceptable. Like, unacceptable. And the real issue there, ultimately, in truth, as a Broncos fan, is that is the game that starters ought get benched.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're a coach and you want to actually instill a proper culture within your team, as Peyton has basically stated, is you basically say, hey, you over there, Josie Jewell and all these other guys that claim to be, NFL professionals and at the top of their game. You say, go ride the pine. We're playing the backups this game. And if you're willing to embarrass us, we're willing to embarrass you. Because we want to see what else we have behind you. Because if you're not willing to show up, we want to know who's behind you on the bench and to see if they're willing to step up and take your place. And if they are, enjoy the bench. You deserve it.
Deuces.
I'm sorry. I have nothing more to say than that to those starters, which is, now the one thing I will say, and I have to give absolute credit where credit is due, Russell Wilson actually had a very good game. He had a few, dude, what's wrong with you kind of passes. But I can forgive that when you're getting a dude running up the gut and about to tackle you on almost every single throw. I am willing to show forgiveness where it's due. By and large, he had a really good game, and I have to give credit to his level of play, his composure, and the fact that he just stood in the pocket and said, I'm about to get slaughtered right now. And took it. And just took it. And, good for him. I have to give credit where credit's due to Russell Wilson. I have been very, very critical of Wilson in his play last year, as well as, other games. But I actually thought he had one of his best games as a Bronco.
Well, Richie, honestly, I didn't see the game. I only saw the score. I was tailgating when they said, did you hear that the Broncos got 70 laid on them? And I thought it was a joke. And I'm like, no. So if you say that he had a good game, and I know that you are a very, very, unbiased in most of your opinions, right? Like I said, I'm good because Russell Wilson had a good game the first game.
He did.
Against the Raiders. And then if he had a good game last game, then the problem is not Russell Wilson. But I will say that the Broncos, after the ass whooping that they did get, this is one of the weeks of practices. You say you play the Bears this week?
3-point favorite somehow.
Okay.
You just gave up 70 points.
I honestly, even if it's in Chicago, because you had the first two games at home, and I'm pretty sure that it would be in Chicago. It's not cold. I would fathom a chance. Thank you, Coach. You know my tongue's all tied. I'm feeling all good, baby. I would venture a guess that you're going to whoop the Bears' ass this week. No, I'm telling you. No, Richie, please bear with me. Bear with me. Pun intended. Pun intended. There you go. Because of that, there's going to be some distilled I can't even get the words out. Oh my God, you guys need to show it, because if you don't, Richie,
you're talking.
If you don't show it this week after having a 70 burger dropped on you, then you really will be going up on maybe not having a win for the rest of the year.
I agree, and frankly, this is where
I think that's what Sean Payton wants, though.
Yeah, and so I have a few general comments on the Bears game, and may as well just go right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have again the 3-point stance for my Denver Broncos and the Chicago Bears. Captain, that segue was chef kiss.
Perfect, baby.
Perfect.
Online.
We're gonna jump into it, and we're gonna jump right into the Broncos Bears game, the battle of the who sucks more in the 2023 season. My Denver Broncos or the Chicago Bears, the winless teams. We're going to go into the Bears 3-point stance. Thank you to the Second City Gridiron for jumping in again. Love these guys. Great takes. Great guys to deal with. Let's see what they have to say.
I like the fact that the guy can actually, because everybody, when you pick against your team, everybody looks at you like you're a flaming rectal hemorrhoid. But it's called, being analytical and
being
giving
objective.
it a shot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I respectfully disagree with that particular gentleman with regards to his take. I brought up the whiskey.
We suck more.
Yeah, I brought up the whiskey.
We suck more.
As a method of coping with my
Doyle rules.
woes. Yes, exactly. So a few things that I think that are missing in terms of what the gentleman has kind of missed for his team. All AFC North division teams are effectively built very similarly, which is pretty heavy and aggressively within the trenches, just because they're preparing for the cold weather that's inevitable. And again, we saw the Chargers and the Vikings have a similar battle where that was way closer than it really should have been. Like, I'm sorry, Coach, it just was.
No argument here.
Yeah, like it just was. And it's just a matter of how they're built. So these cold weather teams, Captain, you dealt with the Steelers. They're built very similarly as well. They look, for everything you want to say about how the Steelers are playing this year, and they're not great, but they're not awful. They're kind of right in that middle, which is they're built very favorably against teams that are built for warmer weather and kind of spread offense, etc. Because spread offense style footballs are typically built lighter and faster, whereas these AFC North teams are built heavy and aggressive. And so the reason why that's an important piece is when you got a guy that can, was basically born on a farm and started lifting cattle one in each arm as age 10. You're dealing with a different breed of guy, and you're dealing with a different style of player. And these AFC North teams are looking for dudes that are just like that, because cold weather has an actual toll on someone's body. And so they're looking for players that just have raw physical strength that can then overpower another player, because they need the run game to work come November, basically. Right? And I mean, look, the flag behind me is no joke. I literally live in the north central part of Ontario in Canada. I know better than those folks in Pittsburgh do about what the cold's like. And they're not wrong. Right? They're just not. And so you need to be a different breed. You need to be able to accept cold, accept pain, and just say, well, that's a flesh wound, and move on. And you need guys that are just used to mauling things around and moving things around and laughing about it when they break a finger and they say, oh, that's funny. You need guys like that for cold weather games. You need it. And I think that the Bears, the Steelers, the Vikings, the Lions, all of these teams are now built in a similar mold. And I think that they're going to give the AFC West fits, because we're not built that way, because we're built for warmer weather games, because we're kind of like a 60-40 split where we have 60% warmer games and then we have kind of 40% colder games. And then we're banking on playing warmer weather teams like the Dolphins and other teams that are further south over the course of the NFL season. And then every once in a while you run up to an AFC North team and they're just like, hi, I want your lunch money. Right. And they're that kind of team. And so are we built for it? And most of the time the answer is no. Or it's yes, but we basically have to run the score up so high, so quick that we negate kind of what makes them unique. And that's really the best way that we can kind of do it. The Chiefs obviously have done that over the years very well. But at the end of the day, if you try to beat them at their own game, you're going to lose. So I don't see this as a Broncos win, because I think the Broncos over the last several years have struggled against teams that are built like the Bears are, and we have not done well. We've lost against the Ravens, lost against the Browns. We've lost against these teams. And there's nothing that this year's team is showing me aside from maybe Sean Payton, pulling some offensive magic out of his rear that will
Good news is you should be able to stop their offense, though, because it's non-existent. So,
sorry, 70 points what?
Yeah, but that's 70 points with an offensive-minded coach and Tyreek Hill and some other weapons. The Bears run 2 receivers out with a 6-7 man protection and somehow still take a sack with the QB that ran for 1,200 yards last year. So, I mean, cuts both ways here in this game, and I think Denver would be better.
I that point is not lost on me. But my point, though, ultimately is that our defense has not done a tremendous job against stopping the run, and we struggled. And we struggled in certain situations against stopping the pass as well. As well, and so the thing here is, sorry, here, Alex. Let me ask you this question: where does Mahomes typically beat the Broncos pretty soundly? In those 5 and 10 yard gashes that he runs, right? Like those 5 10 yard gashes where he just runs right up the gut, right? Like where Mahomes runs for the yardage. Right. Right. He's extended those drives, and that's what has really beaten the Broncos is those extra extended plays where Mahomes has been able to run. And so now the question is, do you not think the Bears quarterback can do the same thing? Maybe even better?
No, I mean, he definitely can. I just. For whatever reason this year, he is not playing like he was last. I mean, he even in that game, and I saw a stat with Fields that I think over 70% of his sacks that he takes are after 4 seconds or more in the pocket. Right. Like, I feel like last year he was already gone, but it's like this year, I don't know. It's just not the same Justin Fields. So I feel like this could be the game where your defense would kind of get back on track with how bad the Bears offense has been.
Sure.
So I don't know.
Sure.
No, I mean, the glass half full,
I agree. So, I mean, I think it's fair. But at the end of the day, I think that we're in a rough spot regardless. This is really a battle of the bottom feeders right now of the NFL in terms of play in general. I have my Broncos losing. I have them losing somewhere in the vicinity of probably something like a 23-20 game or a 27-24 kind of loss sort of thing is kind of where I see us at. I think that our offense can score, but I think ultimately our defense is going to be tired. And I think at the end of the game, we will allow and eventually end up with the Bears coming back and beating us. That's just kind of my general thought. Real quick, I'm going to throw over to Captain and Coach because it's never a bad thing when there's a divisional rival coming up in the week on the AFC West, Wild Wild West podcast here. Coach, I'm going to throw to you, and then Captain, have you kind of respond before we throw over to Alex and discuss his Chiefs as they go up against the Jets. Coach, your thoughts on the on Raiders week?
Hate.
I hate him.
That's right. Right. I mean, I actually honestly think this is an interesting game because, I never trust the Raiders to lay down. I never trust, no matter how good or bad they are, I never trust them to do nothing but play the Chargers tough. I mean, we don't know if Jim McGraw going to play in concussion protocol. He didn't practice today. Woulda. Don't really care. You can roll out Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell, doesn't matter. They're going to play the Chargers tough. So I think it's going to be a tight game. I really do. I believe that it's going to be a back and forth, seriously physical game. And who's going to be up to the task is really going to be the boiling point and the determining factor. And with the who's going to win this game, honestly, it is in SoFi. You quote unquote have that home field advantage, but I'm sure it'll be a lot of Raider contingencies in the building. Trying to root for their team. It's only a short drive. It's a lot of Raiders fans still in California because they were here once upon a time. So you have that element. So it ought to be, a definitely interesting ball game. I mean, on paper, you would like to believe that the Chargers should run away with this. But again, like I said, there's always one of those things where the Broncos and the Raiders always play the Chargers stuff no matter where they are in personnel, winning record, losing record, doesn't matter. So I expect it to be
AFC West, man.
Yeah, that's the way it is. I really believe that they are going to play us to the wire, and it doesn't matter who executes more. I would like to see our running game some kind of way come back to life, to take the pressure off us having to throw 40, 50 times a game. So, especially with a different set of receivers being rolled out and deployed in certain packages this week versus Mike Williams being there. So, just to have a balanced offense and to try to move the ball and control the clock will probably be our best and most logical game plan. But it doesn't matter whether or not they can or cannot execute that. And from a defensive perspective, I mean, it's going to be hard to game plan because it's unknown who's going to be the quarterback when it comes down to Garoppolo or Hoyer or O'Connell, whoever's going to be. And I'm sure they're going to play chicken with that idea until probably the weekend of who's going to be the starter, even if Garoppolo is cleared. So, the game planning for Staley and company is going to be an interesting one to see how they scheme up against this particular outfit. I would like to believe that, because we hadn't had success up to this point of stopping Devontae Adams, I would like to believe that you kind of try to limit him, kind of what they did, I like what they did against Justin Jefferson, try to limit him and keep him away from the most explosive plays. But I would say that if you can contain him and keep the rushing yards to a minimum, I think we have a good shot. But those are the key points that I think this has to happen in order for the Chargers to win the game.
All right.
Captain, what are your thoughts?
Well, like Coach, I see this as a very tight game. I also see this as a game I am not picking, and I got to pick it tomorrow night for NFL Nation Live, coming at you live, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. But I mean, he's going to ask me tomorrow, and I don't know who the hell to pick. And the reason why I say that is because I said last week that I wanted to see which Raider team this is. And I still don't know who the hell it is. I thought I would have an answer against the Steelers, again said correctly. I don't, because the Raiders still have not come out with that dynamic running game. Although, as Black Thanos reminded me last night, that it wasn't until week 4 that Jacobs actually broke out of his shell. He was like very little, very little, very little. And then from week 4 on, he started clicking. I'd like to think that is going to happen this week.
That'll be completely on brand for us to give up a lot of yards to Josh Jacobs. That'll be completely on brand.
I'm just saying, because again, it's week 4, and the Chargers have had an issue in the past with stopping the run. Okay, not being an a-hole. I'm just saying that's true.
I mean, it's the truth. It's all true.
Yeah, they made Madison look pretty
I
good.
will stop you when you start telling the truth.
Okay, yeah, you will. So for the I'm setting them up for the Raiders' true home opener this weekend.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, I was gonna say something about that.
I will say this, Coach, and again, I gave you props last year when I went to Game 1. And there was more Charger fans in the stands week 1 than I thought I would see. Right. I thought I would see. There will be a decent amount of Charger fans in the stadium, but I really think that this is actually the only home game that the Raiders play all year. And it's because of everybody coming into Vegas as that away destination. It's very rare that the Raiders will have a stadium that's actually mostly cheering for us. So this is our only one home game a year, although there will be more Charger fans in the stands than I anticipated going back to last year. The question is, and this is the big one, and I saw it up on in the comments, is who the hell gets fired first, Staley or McDaniel? Because if Staley continues to do boneheaded plays like go for it on 4th and whatever on these 24-yard line, and it was only due to the fact that
analytics.
Right. Only due to the fact that the defensive back had an interception in the end zone against Kirk Cousins. Oh my God, Kirk Cousins almost beat you. Coach, I don't know. I want so bad to just throw a gargler line out here, but I can't because I don't know what team you're going to be. I don't know what team I'm going to be. As far as personas, I don't know. I know it's that Adams is going to have a good game, and it doesn't matter who the hell's throwing him the ball. Okay?
I like to believe that Keenan Allen and Devontae Adams are going to have good games. Outside of that, I have no clue.
Thank you, and that's true because we haven't been able to hold Keenan Allen to anything, and he always has a good game, And this year we actually got Carter on our team, so maybe that'll be the one thing that will help us out because last year Carter went off on week 1 and he was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Okay, right. and he's been a dynamic player for us on special teams. I don't know. I did like the fact that the Raiders defense showed up last week. To a point. The Raiders offense is still not shown up. Okay. And then when you have the question, is it going to be Jimmy Garoppolo as the quarterback if he gets out of and I like Jimmy G, but again, if you go by the stats, he's going to throw 4 interceptions this week. Why? Because he had 1 in week 1, he had 2 in week 2, he had 3 in week 3, and if you go with the pattern, he's going to have 4 interceptions this week.
Well, I like that.
Okay, I don't, but he can't throw an interception if he's not playing.
That's true.
So I'd like to see AOC 4. I can't say AOC because that reminds me of the Skinny Bits from New York. I can't call it.
I was like, what are we doing?
Okay, here? I can't say that. So I have to say AOC 4. Okay, I would like to see AOC 4 be the starting quarterback because if you trot out Brian Hoyer, you're already telling the people that this is a throwaway year. And the fact is that McDaniels is going there, right? And he's already given up because he thinks he's going to be there next year. You're playing with fire, Josh McDaniel. And I said Josh McDaniel because I said it was Josh Schmuck on Sunday, okay? But if you really think that you're going to be there next year and you're going to trot out Brian Hoyer as your starting quarterback when you know you drafted this guy who knows the offense well enough, yeah, he's got Mack and Bosa who actually are they're not on the injured list. I'm asking.
They are. Well, no, Mack isn't. He just had a rest day today. Bosa is with a hamstring and a toe injury, but I like to believe he's going to practice Thursday and Friday.
Okay, so for the first time in forever, you actually have both of them playing into like week 4.
Yeah.
Okay, which is rare. And
to be fair, Mac hadn't been there about a year, but okay.
Okay, but the fact like they had trouble with TJ Watt last week, so TJ Watt because actually the Raiders gave up their first sacks this year last week. They didn't have the sack going into this game, so. I tell you again, Coach, and lots of love to you. I don't know. I'd like to think that the Raiders get their crap together and win. I know it's going to be a close game. It's going to be an enjoyable game, and I know we're going to have fun talking about it next Wednesday. That's all I can say.
I totally agree. I share that sentiment.
So, Alex, very quickly. We are going to fire over after that rivalry game. And I agree with both of your comments, by the way. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I think it's going to have a lot of people right on the edge of their seats. And frankly, it's going to be a real question in terms of which version of both of your teams show up, given kind of the players that are either hurt or not. And I think that'll play a little bit of a role in terms of kind of how things end up. But on that note there, we're going to shelve the Raiders and Chargers until our discussion a little bit more in depth after we see the game next week. Alex, we're going to throw over to you where we have our great friend Jet Central, who's going to go and give his take on things that the Jets need to do to compete and or beat your Kansas City Chiefs. Here he is real quick.
What happened?
I have no idea.
I didn't do it.
sick and tired of seeing Mahomes stand in the pocket, extend plays, have so many seconds to throw the football, and to eventually find somebody down the field, in some cases on broken plays. The Jets have to change that, right? We haven't had a great pass rush in weeks 3 and weeks 2 here, again, against Dallas and New England. We did look really, really good in week 1. I think that was one of the biggest, if not the biggest reason why the Jets beat the Bills. I think if we go back to training camp, the offseason, going back to last year, the pass rush has been probably the number one strong suit of the team, but we haven't really seen that these past couple of weeks. So can we get back to that? Can we get after Patrick Mahomes? It's going to be a big test, but hopefully it plays out that way. But I appreciate you guys taking the time and checking it out, watching, and having me on, guys. So yeah, thanks so much.
Boom.
So I think he had some pretty interesting points there, Alex. Ultimately, I think another relatively realistic take on kind of one team versus the next in terms of where they're at. He kind of hinted at certain things. But what are your thoughts?
Well, and it's funny because I'm the one that asked him, like, what are they doing with my boy McColl, man? He's like, I don't know. I said, I feel bad for him, but then you look at his contract, and I don't feel that bad for him.
No.
But I mean, obviously Sunday Night Football, they had a different QB matchup in mind when that was scheduled. And I know Jet Central and the rest of the Jets fans certainly had a different vibe going into the season of what this game would be like. So yeah, it kind of is what it is, but I mean, it's definitely not a matchup like it was for the Chiefs last week. I mean, Jets defense is obviously really talented. A lot of elite players on that side of the ball, and I think that's evident by their score. You go look at their scores right now. It's 15-10, or I mean, they beat the Bills week 1 because of their defense and special teams. So that side of the ball is elite. And I don't think that's something, to kind of put to the wayside when looking at this game. I think that the two biggest matchups, I know he mentioned, the Jets defensive line, like obviously Quinnen Williams, right up there with your Aaron Donald, Chris Joneses. And, he got paid like that this offseason, certainly sparked internal debate and feud with Chris Jones and the Chiefs. So, he knows how to get after the quarterback, and they got a lot of young talent like Will McDonald, a lot of first round early draft picks in terms of edge rushers and pass rushers that they use to create some havoc. But I mean, so with that all being said, they've had 1 sack in the last 2 games, and Chiefs offensive line is playing actually at a pretty good level right now. Mahomes is actually getting pressured on career low percentage, and I don't think he's been sacked yet. So we'll see if they can kind of keep the status quo with that. But I mean, I think that's obviously the biggest matchup because they're going to have to create pressure to force, not let Mahomes sit back there and just pick them apart. But at the same time, like Mahomes also isn't known to just sit back there. He'll just run around and then pick you apart. So, which leads me to the next, big matchup, which is obviously their secondary, kind of the combo of Sauce Gardner, Reed and Carter, which I probably is one of the best, if not the best, rotations in terms of corners, like secondary unit that a team could have. So, we'll have to just see how that kind of matches up with how the Chiefs spread the ball around and have been kind of, having one person show up one week and then the next. So I think there's just kind of going to be kind of like a death by 1,000 cuts and avoid Sauce Gardner. My final kind of prediction is 35-10 or 30-10, somewhere, 30, 35 point range. Jets have put 10 points up the last 2 weeks. So you got to think they'll probably have some special teams or defensive touchdown, or somehow, Zach Wilson will get something done. But I mean, there's too much going on for me to think that they'll be able to turn it around offensively to make it a game. But, I suppose I could be wrong. But I think that with how the Chiefs played last week going into this week and on top of kind of the media turmoil with the Jets, I just don't really see it being too close of a game.
No, I think it'll be. I do think it'll be closer than you think, just because their defense is that good. Like they're much better than you think. But
no, they're obviously elite. But the thing is, their offense just doesn't help them out. Their offense goes three and out, and then at some point it's like you can be as good as you want, but like Broncos last year, right? They were up the top 5 defense, but their offense wasn't helping them at all. And it's like just at some point you can't.
They just got gassed. They got gassed. It's as simple as that. I agree. And so I actually think the Jets are kind of where the Broncos were last year, where they have this super good defensive unit, but then their offense now, without a competent quarterback to kind of elevate them, to get them through the year and then potentially then bolster their offensive line, they're kind of in a real challenge right now, which is they just, I don't think they have the help.
Yeah. And it's funny too, you say that, right? It's because Hackett's over there like calling it. So it's like, it's kind of, it's the S show has followed him.
Yes. Yeah. It's, and really Hackett has a certain style that he wants to run, and he likes to run that kind of outside zone style offensive play, but you can only do that if you have the right players. It's just as simple as that. And if you don't have the offensive linemen to run that style of offense, then you're kind of behind, or between a rock and a hard place. And I think that's where the Jets are right now, is they're missing the right players in the offensive line to run the style that Hackett wants to run. As a result, I do not see this ending well.
And Taylor Swift's going to be there, as Coach dropped him.
I agree. And it'll be over at that point. It'll be 2 touchdowns.
He's going to be finding that blank space all over the field, dude.
Yeah. And it'll be the chest bump heard around the world again, right? So, I generally agree with everything you said there. I think it's going to be probably a closer game than most people think, but I think it will be still a Chiefs win nonetheless. And I think it'll be the Jets defense that will keep them in this game more than anything else, just because that's, I think, where their strength is as a team.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we're going to wrap this show up, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank all of you for joining us this evening, and just liking, sharing, commenting, all that great stuff. And as the comments say here,
go to the podcast. See my 2 shipmates. I kind of did it on their shows.
Yeah. So we got the Lightning Fast podcast directly after this show in about 3 minutes time with the one and the only Coach Defense and Alex Givens to give you everything you need to know to win your fantasy league. Brandon West and everybody else who has joined us right to the end, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. And guys, until next week, where the West Side is the best side. Peace!
Yeah! When you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.